Hello, everybody. We are now live. This is our very first live.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. Normally this will be Roy B. the Middleman podcast, but we've now evolved out of that. This is what this whole, still a podcast, what this whole podcast is actually going to be about. It's going to be about evolution. So Roy B. the Middleman is no more. That served its purpose. I've evolved out of that, gone a bit more wholesome into my Merlin background and my Merlin connections. But this is a joint project. So this is actually called RA Ascension. Ra, Roy, R for Roy and A for Aida. And yes, I'll introduce you to the other host of RA Ascension, Aida.
Hello, beloveds. Thank you. We're really excited for this new evolution of our journey and our deliverance to what we can bring you through here. And the evolution of humanity, which is what our true purpose really lies. So I love witnessing Roy's evolution in the last few months, from Roy B. the Middleman to really owning his power of Merlin and his magic. So yeah, and I got goosebumps as I say that. So really excited for that and witnessing the unfoldment of that. And then our evolution of our journey together and how expanding it is to be now bringing this to you, because we started with your Roy B. the Middleman podcast, and now we've expanded into this dimension and into this space. So really looking for this unfoldment and the journey to begin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because Aida originally just came on as a co-host, and we started like season 2 with Aida as co-host, and it was all about conscious relationships, and we're still going to continue that, which is great. So, I've still got a list of what we're going to do. It's been a while since we've done a podcast because we've been building our business in the background and doing other things and setting other things up, and life ebbs and flows. The spiritual journey ebbs and flows. And all those magical things coming together do take logical, physical, human-based timelines, as much as we don't always play in those. Evolution is going to be today's subject. What is evolution, really? I mean, a lot of us consider it to just be how humans evolved, supposedly out of cavemen, and still haven't found the missing link and all that stuff, if you want to believe that. You don't have to. Whatever you believe serves your purpose. But ultimately, I consider myself starseed. So what that means is I'm not originally from Earth, so I couldn't have evolved from a caveman monkey anyway. There's also the people that believe that we were brought down by different races from the star systems, whether it's Pleiadian, Arcturian, Sirian, Blue Ape, all those things at some point introduced different versions of the human spacesuit that we inhabit as a soul while we walk this earth on this timeline. Whichever version of that it is that you believe, that's your belief, and that's brilliant. Continue that until something that you feel aligns more replaces it and evolves it. And this is the whole thing of evolution. Evolution, in its simplest term, is basically you've got one set of beliefs, and then new information comes in, and you choose to, fracture's the wrong word, but to veer off onto this new set of beliefs. That's evolution, because that's then serving you at a higher purpose. You can never go lower. It's always serving you at a higher purpose. So that's evolution, just on its simplest thing. You basically made a choice. You're doing different things in a different way that's for your higher purpose. That's evolution. So me doing a Roy B. Middleman served me for a year. It was a bit more corporate, and I moved back more into my aligned higher self, high vibrational version, which is going to help me attract the next stage of my life.
Thank you, my love. And the process of evolution, whatever you believe in, is perfect, right? Whatever you believe your stems from. The primary thing to remember, so to speak, is you are a spiritual being having a human experience. What that means is this beautiful physical body, and what you've chosen to incarnate in this lifetime is a very small, and I love to say infinitesimal part of your spiritual being, of your higher self. You may often hear that we are connected to source energy, and that part is absolutely true. And if your higher self is part of that process and it's not separate to you, it is, you are part of it. Feel like Rumi said, the drop of an ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. It's like trying to separate a drop out of an ocean, right? And yes, you can. However, you are in this physical body inside your spiritual essence and energy and being. Now that is never separate from you. It is what I truly believe and what I love to teach is it's part of you and you are part of it. And that is interconnected with all spiritual beings and light, cosmos, universe, God, whatever your belief system is in that too. So that's part of the evolution of development, and our human being is part of that evolutional process. And no doubt we're going to start to talk about how we came here, why we choose to come here, and what are we doing here. So yeah, some really big, powerful questions like, why am I here? And no doubt you would have at some stage in your spiritual awakening path, which is why you've been brought here today, that's coming into practice. You would have felt that question bubbling within you. And it often is a source of our driving energy. And it would be really beautiful is how we navigate, and what we often teach our students is the process of owning who you are.
And how
incredible power that you are.
And how to learn the difference between your life purpose and your life mission.
Yeah.
They're two different things, and we often think they're the same. I mean, they're obviously very interconnected. But your mission can evolve depending on, you've done part one of your mission, then it evolves into part two, and part two might look in a completely different part of the world, or not look even connected to part one. You might see a complete break in you might go, let's say you might have been married for 10 years, that ends, and then you enter a new relationship. Two completely different people, but it's an evolution and there's still connectedness there. You're learning new levels of relationships. Like I said, like we've spoken about the conscious relationships in the previous episodes of the Roy B. the Middleman podcast. Now we're going to talk about different levels of conscious relationships in the RA Ascension podcast. This is it. That's evolution. One served its purpose. It has no energy and no teachings and no reason to be there anymore. And it's just up to me in my energetic self, in other words, up to you and your energetic self to have that courage to move away from something that may have still been working. Roy B. the Middleman was still working. It was still gaining followers. It was still gaining, but I just felt it was done. So I had to choose either to stay the same or to evolve. And I sat with it for probably about a month, I think. I started mentioning it, and I think it's ending. And it was interesting that when you observe this evolution journey, the spiritual journey, that how it just starts to creep in. It's not, we always expect sometimes there to be this big flash of lightning from source, from God, from the universe to say, now do this, bro. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it just creeps up on us, a bit like a ninja. Just creeps up on you, and all of a sudden, like, it's there. And then you've been having these thoughts, and all of a sudden there's that need, that drive, that energy for action to then change. So I had to go through all my socials, change the picture and remove and do all those things, which if you want to remain the same, you'll allow those to stop you from doing that. Oh, it's such a ball ache and that kind of attitude, that kind of energy going, I've got all these socials in place. It's going to be too much to change. But then you stay the same and then you don't evolve. And that will keep coming up, and that drum will keep getting louder and louder and louder until you change. So it's best to do it the first time you get that, because it's always much easier to change right at the beginning than fourth or fifth time that comes around and that drum comes around and that knowing comes around and reminds you and bangs on your door, and your intuition is going, when are you going to listen? Because you don't want the universe, you don't want your spirit team to step in and come with a sledgehammer to make you change it anyway. So that could look in many different ways, like your computer breaks or things like that. And then when you have to reset it, well, there's your option to reset it all. And then that's when you get to go, well, now my computer's having to reset, I might as well just reset it all anyway. You had the opportunity to do it long before then. And that's evolution. Another version.
And as you said, my love, it comes in many forms. Yeah. sometimes your first spiritual awakening is that sledgehammer, so to speak, is the lightning bolt from source, or it can be an impetus that you've received by some means. And it can feel like, and I've had this experience where it's like someone was talking in my ear, and often my spirit guides still do this for me, which is incredible. But then it can feel like, this is your path, you need to do this thing. And it is still, and this is the power of us as humans, it's still your choice to follow that narrative, follow that belief system, follow that intuitive knowing, and step into that power. Because at some stage, and yes, it can be absolutely scary as all hell to be able to do the thing, right? To be able to do that change, to be able to do what you're feeling called to do. And I know I've held myself back so much because of the witch wound. Yeah. And even speaking it saddens me. But that's something that I'm still, at some level teaching other women to be in their power, to say that's a past life system. It's not who we are in this lifetime. We can't allow that to hold us back anymore, because often the pain of not doing the thing is greater than staying stuck, staying where you are, staying small. Because yes, then your team come in and then they will make things really challenging. And go for it, Don.
Yeah, your team your team, your spirit team, they know your mission. And that includes your higher self, which is you anyway. They know your mission. So if you're veering off it, or you're not in the flow of it at a certain pace, they have to step in, because that's their job. That's what they've signed up to do. They've signed up to support you, to make you complete your mission. Your sole purpose is just become the best version of you. That's the simplicity of it. And that happens along the way of doing the mission, which is why they're so interconnected. Like
your GPS, course correct, do a U-turn.
Yeah.
That's what your guides do.
Yeah, you come down here with a destination. It's your end date and your transmission date back to source. And in between that, you have things to do. You've signed up to things to do. They're not always what people consider deeply spiritual things. We've happened to have this mission this lifetime. But some people, it might just be their sole mission to just meet someone at a young age and have a nice, happy life, have 3 kids, work at the same company for their whole life. And that's still a soul mission. That's still changing the world somewhere, because all the people they meet along the way that come in and out of that company that they work for their whole life, and they're that solid rock of that company, and they keep that company going because it needs to be there for all the people that need employing. You can see where I'm going. He's still, that person, he or she is still evolving that company, and that company's serving people on their mission that need a job at the time and then out again. And it's always a nice company and whatever. And guarantee people watching and people that come and watch this on the replay, they'll know a company like that that's been around forever. That's just a little family company run by the same family. They formed it as a couple in 20 years ago, does the same thing, sells the same thing, and is just there, survives everything, come rain, come shine, just survives every disaster thrown at it, because that's got a strong purpose within itself. And there's always one key person that just works there all the time as well, that becomes part of that company's family. So yeah, this is where tuning into yourself and having a conversation with your team, and even if you're very new at this, you can still start that connection and still start that vocabulary and still start that language, because your language with your team is very different. Like my language in my team is very different with Aida's language with her team. Mine are very visual in the physical realm, in the physical matrix, how they talk to me a lot. They talk to me visually through images, a bit like hieroglyphics, really, for want of an explanation term. Whereas Aida's are very direct in her ear. Mine do. I don't tend to listen, so they have to show me. They show me another way. I'm learning to listen. See, I'm learning to evolve. And that way, when you start that language, it's like any language with a new person. It takes time. Give it time and it will build strong and it will build consistent. And that's how you then start to get your messages, however that looks for you. Yeah. And then those messages by your team work perfect for your journey.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'd like to, even because you're mentioning soul family to a point, guides, who you connect with in this beautiful earthly realm. So let's take it all the way back to not all the way back to the beginning, because we don't have that long, but let's go back to before you incarnated onto this earth and who your soul family is. And we have spoken about this so go back and check the Roy B. the Middleman podcast, because regardless of Roy's evolution, all of that content is still powerful source energy being channeled and directed. So there's many that will still definitely resonate and will require that. This will be very much about the 5D ascension and beyond, right? Which is the fields and realms I love to play in. Not disrespecting and not diminishing this earthly realm at all, because this is why we're here. And this is part of what we're talking about evolution with today as well, is that you've chosen soul contracts in this lifetime. So you've chosen certain experiences, and often we're like, why would I choose to have that experience? Why would I choose to have a dis-ease? Why would I choose to be, like in my past lives, raped and tortured as a witch? Or, why would I choose to have all of these horrible things happen? Horrible. Or why would I choose to have this incredible life where I've been married and birthed into this beautiful, rich family, and it's been smooth sailing? And because we will at some stage have every single one of those experiences in a different lifetime, if you choose to believe incarnations, because we are souls. And our purpose is we come down to earth to be enriched by this earthly experience, because as source energy, we don't get to taste chocolate. We don't get to drink coffee. We don't get to experience physical touch and pleasure and sunshine. And this is why we're here, to be able to experience all of those things, to have emotions. Yeah. And as much as we often diminish our emotions, or as empaths, we can struggle through them, this is why we're here. So you've chosen certain soul contracts in this lifetime to have these experiences for the enrichment of your soul. So fine, come down and enjoy that. But that is not an excuse either to allow yourself to sit in your victimhood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so yes, I was poor in this life. I was, born poor, whatever that means for you. Or I was born with this condition, that means that I'm just meant to struggle in this lifetime. No, my loves. No. Life is meant to be pleasurable, no matter where you are and what you do. And it's about your experience, not another's. Not another's.
Exactly. And and Aida mentioned earlier about how this channel has evolved. Well, look at episode 1. Episode 1 is about inner work and the father wound, which is where you start. You start the father or the mother wound. That's where you start your spiritual journey, where you learn these habits, and that's what they are. I mean, not taken away from anything you've ever been through. It's a habit. It's a habit that you were taught, and that means you're going to evolve out of it by just learning a new habit that's serving you today. That habit may have served you initially when you were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Then it's hardwired until you get to a point in your life going, well, this isn't serving me anymore. I need a new habit. I need to evolve out of. What you learned at 2 is definitely not relevant even at 22.
Yeah, it can still be undermining your decisions.
Yeah. If you've learned self-sabotage, even if you've learned that habit of playing victim, that's not serving you. It's only serving your ego and your fear to keep you small, because we have to have that courage and move through that fear wall with a leap of faith to grow into a new version, which can look as simple but also as annoying as changing all your socials. But it also can look as, if you've been in a relationship for 10 years, transitioning out of that into a new place where you've got to go and find somewhere else to live and all those things, and leaving behind so much that's connected to that as a couple. Looks initially like a massive step, but if that's your evolution, you'll find that once you take that step, you go, I wish I'd done it sooner, because you've been pondering about it, thinking about it, worrying about it for maybe a year at least, maybe longer. We do sometimes stay in relationships far longer than we should have done. And once we step out of that new energy comes in, that old energy starts to die, that old habit starts to fall away, this new energy comes in, and then you get this new lease of life. because you're stepping into a more evolved version of yourself, and you give thanks to the person that you was with for X amount of time. X being the right word, of course. You give gratitude for them, irregardless of what happened during the time together, whether it's considered as a bad thing or a good thing or an indifferent thing or whatever. They were your teacher, definitely. They were your mirror, definitely. They were the person that you called in to help you evolve. So in regards to evolution, they definitely need gratitude. You know, get to the point where you can say their name without any energy behind it. Where, you know, some people do remain friends, some people don't. It all depends. But you can still give gratitude and still give thanks for all they helped you to become. Because if you was with them day in, day out, they definitely helped you become a different person. Or they definitely helped you evolve to a certain point where they couldn't help you anymore, and then you needed to move on to call in another. And it's not necessarily a relationship that you call in. You might call in a deep friendship and stay single for a couple of years. And you call in someone who's not on a physical connection level, who you just catch up with, who can be that confidant. There's many different teachers of evolution. You might even call in a pet who can't even speak English. So, you know, there's many different versions of teachers that help you evolve. I'm guaranteeing now, anybody watching, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 teachers around you helping you evolve, including yourself.
And may I just speak to, regardless of since we're talking about past relationships too, the word evolve gives you a greater understanding of your boundaries, right? And what you will and will not put up with either. Because if you're in a relationship and it's toxic as hell, right? And that in some part is also making you evolve because you're choosing to stay there for whatever reason it is. And that is not for us to go into that debate right now of good and bad and indifferent. But what we're saying is the evolution process is what you're ready to accept. And yes, you may have called that an experience for whatever your soul contract was to sign up with that person. You have always had the power of choice. And then that evolutionary process is a cycle, right? And it doesn't always spiral up. We'd hope it to, but often it can sometimes just spiral and repeat cycles, which is the whole cyclical reason, which is why Spirit's like, oh, and then you may end up attracting very similar, and relationships in every aspect of your world. It can be partners, it can be work people. You know, I seem to be attracting the same boss. It starts off great and they love me, and then all of a sudden they become narcissistic, or they micromanage me. Like, you'll find a similar pattern, which means you haven't had an opportunity to dive deep, learn that lesson, discover what part of you needed to receive from that, find the gold in it, evolve from it, grow from it, and then choose differently. Yeah. So it can be relationships, it can be work, it can be friends. Yeah. It can be any, like what you accept in your community, your church groups. It can be any one of those factors. But it's all the evolutionary process is whether you're going to cycle up, which is what we're hoping for, not hoping, that's our part of our purpose to be, and then, or whether we're staying in this similar cycle. And that is the power of your choice. Yeah. And consciousness and awareness, one moment, my love, thank you. Well, consciousness and awareness is what, and then of course gaining wisdom from mentors and guides, yours and potentially even others in this physical realm, to be able to support you through that process.
Yeah, and as Aida said, like, it's the power of our choice, which is the changing of the habit. Because you can get to a point where your boundaries around a certain, whether it's relationship, boss, work colleague, friend, and you go, no, I've had enough of this, I'm walking away. But if you don't change the habit that attracted that in, and you definitely attracted that in, you're just going to attract a different teacher. Well, same teacher, different skin. Yeah. But that'll happen a lot quicker. Because the lesson, when you try and walk away from one lesson that you haven't learned, the next teacher that comes in is going to be stronger. So therefore, that you'll get to the same point in a much shorter time frame. And then you can get, as Aida said, you can get stuck in that pattern of down oh, but this always happens to me. This always happened to me. There you start playing victim. It's always happens until you stop playing victim and play student and learn the lessons and start to change the habits, which is therefore you start to evolve. You start the evolution process out of one version of yourself into another that's much more aligned and much more healthy for your whole energetic system, for your whole spiritual being, for your human self. Because when we're in toxic situations that's toxic to our energy, our human body can get sick.
Yeah.
Now, again, we'll very emphasize we're not medical doctors, so if you do have anything, please go and see a medical practitioner. But ultimately, there's plenty of literature out there and also research done that our emotions affect our physical body. There's so much not research, there's so much resources out there to read where people have done tests, using MRIs and to see what happens to the body. And there are resources out there that say, well, if your finger's aching, this is happening. Go and find one of those books and then find out what's aching or what you've broken recently and see what's going on. And you'll see a direct link.
And that's part of the messages that you are being guided by your team. And though initially it may seem like it's portrayal that your team are kind of like working against you, right? Or they're not. Their purpose is like the GPS, is to continually navigate you back onto your path, onto your mission, back to reminding you of your true self. Right? So with your body's constantly communicating to your 0 to 7 imprint, is obviously we have minimal control. And now when we're that young, we are requiring higher caregivers to nurture us, nourish us, protect us in that realm, at that age group. But then at 30, 40, 50, that imprint is often the subconscious mind. We do things because we're challenged by them, or we do things because that's our belief system, and we're bringing conscious awareness to those things. I always tell my students, question everything. Question every belief system you've ever had. Is there a God? That is up to you, whether you believe yes or no. But question these things. Question why you're here. Question whether you are meant to be a doctor, or did you become a doctor because your parents wanted you to. And if you freaking love it, then you're on the right path. But I always love to question everything. Yeah, what is good for you? Well, show me how it is, and then I always like to intuitively feel what it's like for my body, how much I should personally drink, the quality of water that I partake in. But for me, it's about question everything, but not to a point where you start to spite yourself. Like there's this intuitiveness, and yes, we need support and guidance from mentors, physical realm as well as spiritual realm, that will support you on your path and purpose. Because when we're in the thick of things, and when you hit a dark night of the soul, it's challenging to see the light. But our team, our spirit team, and our beloved human team that we've surrounded ourselves with are here to be our guides. And that can be a guide that's meant to take you down into that dark night of the soul so you can wake up. Or it can be a beautiful guide that's there to hold your hand and show you the way. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be tragedy or trauma circumstances. It can just keep getting better and better and blissful and more abundant, and allowing yourself to be intuitively guided that way too. And like Roy said earlier, in the way that you receive messages. And that's what we're here to do, is remember our connection to source. And yes, I get to physically see as much as Roy does, but it's often I also hear. I get a sense of knowing. So we all have our beautiful gifts that we can draw in to then be able to help us navigate through this beautiful human experience to bring us more bliss and joy. And okay, cool, this thing happened today. All right, I've got an experience I need to learn from. What was that about? And then, cool, then I get a choice. We always have choice.
Yeah, we do. And also, a spiritual journey is not always deep stuff either. Sometimes we're learning simple stuff. Little things that we still get these visual guidance, or the knowing, or the clairaudience, those things. They give us play stuff too. Your journey is also about play. There's an evolution in that. We play as children, and then when we become adults at 18, the play looks slightly different, but there's still play, whether you like sports or whether you like video games, or it's like anything, as long as you do it in a healthy environment and it's not being used for escapism.
Yeah.
Or it's not poisonous. Now, what I'm saying like that is anything you do to excess is poisonous to your system. So if you're eating a chocolate bar every night, a big chocolate bar every night, that's
Not great.
not great. And, just use that as an example, but that can also apply to the gym. If you're pushing your body far too much and your body's going, whoa, and your body will be telling you because it's starting to break. You're starting to pick up injuries. That's your body saying you're pushing too hard. You need to step back a bit. Or if you're going down the gym to look a certain way because you want to look a certain way for others. Yet when you go home behind closed doors in your mind going, I don't like looking like this, but I want to fit in with that crowd. Then that's still not honoring who you are, because your body that was also born with a blueprint and can also talk to us. Our physical body is something few of us actually talk to and actually listen to. So, there's so much push out there for certain types of diets. If you're not listening to your body, me and Aida have very different food-based diets. And because we both listen to our body and we listen to each other and we honor each other's journey, when we go out to dinner, we make sure that we can both eat what we need. I still need meat. Aida's vegetarian and gluten-free, but I'm happy to compromise with the gluten-free and the vegetarian sometimes, because sometimes my body's saying, I don't need meat every day. And it's the same on occasions. Aida even steps into the realm of a bit of salmon because her body says, I need salmon right now. And so we go and get fish and chips or whatever. We're not rigid with what people expect. We're not rigid with belief systems or what, if we say we're vegetarian, sometimes we go, well, I've said that to people, I've got to stay that rigidly now, even though your body's going, right now you need to go down to a steakhouse and have a 300 gram rum. And you're going, no, don't want that. No, because I'm vegetarian. You're not listening to your body.
May I just add to that bit too? The importance of listening to your body, but two, the label of vegetarian, vegan, carnivore, doctor, nurse. Like, we are so attached to labels. Diabetic, celiac, cancer, whatever it might be. We're often attached to a label. We go to get labeled, and then that gives us permission to be in that or to have that, dis-ease. But you are not the thing, right? You're here to be your authentic expression of self. So the desire to be attached to a label is, as you said, is a desire to fit in to something external to us. And yes, as human beings, we are social community creatures. We are not meant to be isolated. We are meant to be living in a community-based environment that nourishes each other, supports each other mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. We are meant to be in those communities. So yes, connecting with like-minded, authentic people is essential for your evolution. They discovered, I think it was in an orphanage, and I'm trying to recall when, I'll get Spirit to drop in where, that they had these babies that were, like, unfortunately, no parents. They were left at the orphanage, and they had a group that, this was not a trial by any means, it's something that was just monitored, that they had these babies that they were fed and watered and just left because they just didn't have the capacity to be able to nurture all the children in a way that babies need, right? And there was some other babies that were getting love, being held while they were being eaten or just through the day. The babies that were still being fed, watered, diaper changing, passed. And then the other babies that were getting some form of physical contact throughout their day survived, thrived, because we are community beings. You can't diminish or extract yourself from the community or from work. And we often do that out of fear and from a trauma wound. And I've been there, so I get it. But finding like-minded people, but not being attached to a label, not being attached to identity. My doctor says I've got this, so hence that's who I am. I'm vegan, so that means absolutely all of that means. And then there are people who are, yes, on their soapbox, and I applaud those people. There are advocates, and we absolutely need them in different areas of this earth, because that's their archetype, and one of their archetypes that they're here to portray. Whatever your archetype is, whatever your authentic expression is, give yourself permission to question any time, because that's the importance of staying connected with source, your highest level self, and moving through that, allowing yourself to be called through that. And that's when you start to get drawn towards your mission, vision, purpose, and life, enjoying that. And part of life is that playfulness.
Yeah. And that question, and it's like, well, am I an omnivore in this moment? Am I a vegetarian? Am I a celiac? And it basically is like, what's my body needing right now? And that's just, obviously that's on the physical bodily level. It's the same with exercise. Does my body need rest today?
Yeah.
Anything, and it's okay to have a day of rest too. Our body definitely needs that. Our body's not designed to be go, go, go all the time. It will burn out. And so when listening to our body, if you're not doing that now, that's something you can evolve into. Just start simple. What do I need? What does my body need for breakfast? And whatever comes to mind, just go with it. You can't get it wrong or right, but what will happen is like, if you listen to it and it wasn't quite accurate, because it might have just been your ego talking rather than your body's intuition talking, and then whatever you eat that gives you indigestion, then then you do the same thing in the next day. It's practice makes perfect, because again, you're building a language with your intuitive body that you've never even spoken to before, and any language takes time to build up and takes time to help understand how it feels when you get those inner knowings. Some people might be naturally good at that. I was very blessed at being able to listen to a body from a young age. So that language, I was born with that language because that was on the soul contract. I didn't need to learn that this lifetime. It's like, no, you've done that in other lifetimes. You've done that learning. You've done that teaching this particular lifetime. It's not something you need to learn again. It's not something you need to remember. So you're just going to be born with it, and you'll just go with it, and it'll just be something that's already there. And everyone will have their own versions of that they just quickly remember by the time they're 6 months old, maybe. Who knows? Who knows what the timing really is, because we don't always remember stuff back at a young age in our child stage.
And that is a beautiful process of learning and remembering that communication style. Because yes, when we're 0 to 7 again, or when we're living with our primary caregivers, then we're raised a certain way. They may have been vegetarian, vegans, or they may have eaten everything, might be a meat, 3 veg sort of family, and that's okay. But at some stage, and this is the process of remembering and relearning, or reawakening and reconnecting with yourself, is like, what is it that I now want, now that I have full sovereignty over every aspect of my being? What is serving me? And if you're choosing then to follow a different path, because that's what and then it will come with time. Yes, you may initially come to a guide and go, this isn't feeling right for me, but I'm a bit confused about my messages. That's what we've been doing. And we're feeling very blessed to have been able to do that for a very long time and continue to do so. Because often when, again, we're in the thick of things, we don't get the clarity, or we're confused by the messages because we're still learning to communicate with our soul and source. And that's cool. So that there is still a process of, needing a little bit of guidance, and that's okay. But always check back in with your highest level self, because that is the process of knowing. And then trusting that the universe will fully support you in the next step in the evolution of your journey. And that's truly important, that reconnection to self.
Yeah. And even when we've got students and we're doing one-on-one with a student, the information we give isn't 100% for that moment. So some of it might not. There's definitely sessions where some of it doesn't resonate for one of the students, and they're sort of looking at me a bit confused and going, well, that doesn't quite, I'm not sure about that one. I go, yeah, well, give it a couple of weeks, or give it a month. Sometimes even give it 6 months. And then what I'll get is 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months later, that thing you said, that's now come to fruition, because we planted the seed. The seed grew, the person did some inner work, did the work, followed the other things that were relevant for the moment, which then helped them grow, which then allowed that seed to then come to fruition and then be seen. and then become relevant in that now, in a future now. And so, yeah, anything that's for, and here's the thing, that's the thing with evolution, anything that's for you today might not necessarily be for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Food, jobs,
People.
recreation, friends, pets,
Yeah.
relationships, inanimate objects, cars,
Yeah.
houses,
Yeah.
computers. When it's time for them to no longer serve you, the universe will conspire to get it out your life. And the more you resist, the harder that becomes.
Yeah.
The less you resist, the easier you flow into that change, the easier you flow through that evolution, the easier you flow through that spiritual death, the easier you flow through that dark night of the soul, which we'll talk about the dark night of the soul in a future live podcast, because that's definitely a subject all on its own. Which this, it's unlimited and unending, this spiritual journey and the subjects around it. Evolution is just one small part of the path that we take. We come down here to evolve as a soul, and the human journey helps us do that. Helps us understand the physical realm. Helps us understand, as Aida said earlier, if you label yourself to be an empath, well, empath, the etymology of it means embodied feeling. And that's so. If that's technically, that means every person on the planet is an empath, because we all come down here and embody feelings. We can't feel as a soul where we just feel pure love, because we just are pure love. We don't technically feel it. But down here on the human self, where we feel these emotions in our body, where we feel temperature changes or pressure changes, where we've got a really, one of the five senses, obvious distinction between a moment before and a moment after, when that feeling comes in, whether it's a pain in the chest because we sort of watched a sad program or something, or whether we cry, or all of a sudden there's that jump for joy, and because this wall of energy comes up and just because something amazing has just happened. We feel that difference in experience of energy, and that's the embodied feeling. The body is a great feedback system. That's its job. The physical body is a feedback system to tell you what's going on energetically at the time.
And your body remembers every single experience. And this is why it's so important to tune into it, because our conscious mind can't recall everything. It's just purely impossible. And there are some geniuses on the planet that have a great phenomenal memory. I get it. But your body will remember. Every cell in your being has a remember of every single human experience that you've had in this incarnation. So it was constantly communicating with you, which is why it's so important to be in tune with it, because that is part of your process of evolution. Because at any moment, it's constant. The biofeedback system is there. So if I'm feeling happy, this is great, and maybe I need to tune into this sensation and this experience more. But you can't just chase happiness. You can't just chase joy. You can't just chase something, right? Because the process of being is that set of equilibrium that we're really here to have. Yes, we're here to experience joy and pleasure and have all of those yummy things in life. We're also here to have those human experiences, and we want to reset. We want to come back into balance, and we want to come back into Libra New Moon. Funnily enough, as this podcast is being recorded or being live, we want to have this sense of I'm feeling and I'm getting to identify with these emotions. And yes, I get that there's lots of labels and lots of things that saying I'm not in tune with my emotions, and you get to be called all those things. But that's why we're here. Like, I know at any moment exactly how I'm feeling. And the importance of that is then I'm always in tune with my body. I'm always connected to my highest level self. I'm always connected to source energy. And I'm constantly listening. And yes, we can have moments where we fall back into a pattern or a cycle, but then that's a moment of choice. And then we're like, I can stop that at any moment. The moment you identify that that's not how you want to continue, because you know that cycle, it's like, then I have the power of choice. I can stop this in any moment. Come back in to take a breath. Your breath will always be your source of power and balance. And then choose a new pathway. Make a new choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Evolve, make that new choice.
Yeah.
Something did pop in and then popped out again.
It'll come.
It's all about lessons or something.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So the thing is, like, when we evolve into a higher version of ourselves and a higher vibration, we can't do that without finding the shadow behind it, without understanding the teachings behind it, essentially. The teachings are in the shadow. Unfortunately, for those that don't really want to know that, you've got to face that side of you. You know, there's a famous, well, I wouldn't say it's a famous quote, but there's a quote by somebody whose name escapes me right now. It says, those who knows, the person that knows his inner devil knows his inner God.
100%.
In other words, if you know the shadow side of yourself, that's definitely going to help you know the light side of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, without knowing your sadness, you don't know your joy.
Yeah.
Without knowing your pain, you don't know your peace. And so on and so forth. Opposites, you know, the yin yang. There's light in dark and there's dark in light. And one can't serve without another. You ask any photographer, as soon as you open that shutter too much and let too much light in, you get no picture. You just get a blank white picture. And if you don't let enough light in, you just get a completely black picture. You get the light and the dark just right, and you get the most amazing pictures with all the details, with all the colors, that when people look at that photo, they go, wow.
And I love that, because your shadow is your contrast, right? It's showing you where parts of you that are needing to heal, right? And
parts of you need more love, just like the babies you spoke of.
Yeah.
Imagine those parts of you that are being highlighted are the babies that Aida spoke about. The ones weren't cared for. But this is about self-love. That evolution journey is self-love.
Absolutely it is, because we are here to remember we are source love, and it's unconditional love. And you cannot hate the experiences that shaped you. And God knows I've tried, and I've tried to keep them repressed and hidden. You just, once you bring light to those and really get the depth, and we will talk about shadow work at some stage, because it's an imperative part of your spiritual journey. Because the other side of that is spiritual bypassing, and beloveds, you do not want to do that shit either, because that is definitely not going to serve you, right? You can't be all fluffy and all love and light and all mythical all of the time and pretend there is no shadow. Yeah. Your shadow is always falling behind you. Absolutely. However, there's so much great wisdom. And we will also talk about the difference between shadow and light, because there's lots of versions of people's shadow thinking that they're your bad habits. That's not your shadow. That's simply a choice and a behavior that needs to shift and change. Right? And I use those words very particularly.
And if you want to watch what shadow work looks like, episode 1 of Roy B. the Middleman podcast, which is actually on this channel, it's in the podcast channel right at the beginning. You just go through the process. It was basically a live one-on-one session with a client of mine. And that's just one version of the way I do it. There's many different ways. Aida does it completely different to me, but they all achieve the same end, more or less. We help people look into something, unlock something, look at something from a completely different angle, and change the way they think about it, therefore the way they act about it, which then changes their outer reality, which then helps them release a part of themselves that they, or move beyond, not release, but helps them move beyond a part of themselves that they weren't loving at the time. And it was just simply because they were choosing to look at it from one angle all the time, and they weren't evolving. They weren't choosing to go, well, let's turn it a bit. Let's turn this coin around and see if I can look at it a different way. See if I can solve this pain, move beyond this pain. And in theory, you know, with the resources that we've told you about, if their body was creating feedback system around that, the body would then balance out and the body would heal itself. There's a lot of literature out there as well about that the body will heal itself. That's its purpose. The physical body's great at repairing. It will do it till the day you pass. That we put this emotional block in the way and tell it not to do that. So we tell it not to do that. And
this is the thing about bypassing. We're not sticking a Band-Aid over something. we're going in to see what it's there to communicate with you, what that experience was about, what it was there to show you. Yeah, and that's a very, very powerful piece.
What it's there to teach us.
Yeah.
We are our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
And we are guides just to help you teach yourself.
Yeah. Show you the way.
We help you over the years, we've done all this work. So we've got many techniques and tips and tricks and ins and outs and methods and so on and so forth. The ability to channel them as well. That's our mission. That's our purpose. We were given these gifts to use to help others unlock so that the collective energy of Mother Earth can evolve. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, the evolution of Mother Earth. This is a fantastic time to live, an evolution of Mother Earth from 3D, 4D realm into 5D realm. Which depends on, which is what depending on what you follow on social media, there's a lot of that being talked about right now.
Yeah.
And not really, there's so many people that don't really know what that actually means.
Education,
yeah.
Powerful. And I love that quote. It's like, education isn't power. Knowledge isn't power. Well, they say knowledge is power, but I'm like, no, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power, right? Because you can know all of the stuff and do nothing with it. And what's it there for? Like all of those books on the bookshelf, shelf development, right? Not doing anything other than creating and collecting dust. It's not until you apply what you've learned, choose to do something differently and move forward in that evolution of self. Because as I've always said, it's not just our physical bodies that's constantly evolving. The universe is constantly evolving and expanding. So must we. We're compelled as part of the universe and cosmic source energy to constantly evolve. As is divine Mother Earth. She's constantly evolving and growing. We don't have the same, well, we do have many trees that have been here for centuries, no doubt. But it's constantly having a birth and death cycle. So must we. So yeah, really embrace a human journey.
And the irony is, with evolution, we can never stay the same anyway. We move through time. So as much as you repeat a life cycle, you're always gradually getting to that point where you make a different choice, create a different habit and evolve anyway. But it's our choice to just make that time gap smaller.
Collapse time.
Yeah, collapsing timelines. There you go. Quantum physics. That's a complete different. Yeah. We can't do quantum physics. That's mathematical. Well, we could do it a little bit on a spiritual level. Spirit often drop quantum physics into my head. I think they do it for a laugh because it makes my human brain go, okay, too much information.
I love it because we're trying to analyze some of the stuff that Spirit is, and quantum physics is actually second dimension, peeps. So all these, the aspect of quantum healing is still healing on a 2-dimensional level. We're in 3. I'm about to blow your freaking mind, right? So the quantum healing is, and I know I'm challenging Roy right now too, is the second dimension. We're on the 3rd dimension. 4th dimension is our emotions. 5th dimension is where we truly want to connect into source energy. And then above, right? Because we want to drop in dimensional healing, which is, quantum's actually, we're wanting to do, and I know that there's movies about the metaverse right now, but that's actually a thing. And it's beyond 10.
Yeah.
Right? That's the healing levels we want to achieve and drop into this realm. We want to go 5D and beyond because it's beautiful. And I love the quantum aspect. And yes, quantum does mean timelines and first, but that's what created this earthly realm. It's the 2-dimensional being. And we're here and we're healing this, which is beautiful, but we're here and we're beyond. So this is beautiful and healing this aspect and all that came before us. And at some level, we do need to do this work. But I'm like, we're ready to go above and beyond.
And you start truly understanding that you're a multidimensional being,
Boom.
Having a multidimensional experience, and you can connect into, you can collapse those dimensions into each other and choose a different dimension to live in.
That's
Anyway, that's a whole.
All right, that's a whole other
life. Whole nother life. See how that lights us up though. That's our stuff. I'm like, yeah, excellent. Now we're talking. Anyway, speaking of now we're talking, now we're actually going to stop talking. We're going to end this live right now. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please like and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you, because the thing is, when you're a subscriber, you'll be able to comment in the chats every time we do one of these live. You'll be able to ask questions. We'll be able to answer questions because we're doing these live now. And there'd be more interaction.
Yeah, comment below.
Yeah.
We'd also love to hear from you. We will be reading comments as well. And yes, we understand that some of this concept may challenge and you have a different belief system, and that's amazing. We absolutely love to. And this is coming from our aspect and our glasses and our vision point, right? So,
and our mission.
And the more we accept that everyone has a different viewpoint, which is absolutely true,
Yeah.
the more enriched this life experience can be. So, yeah, comment below. We'd love to connect with you. Please, we'll schedule the live so that you know when they're coming on.
Yeah, because this was just an impromptu thing, and I ain't got all the that's because I'm the background process guy. So there's some programs I've still got to learn. See, I'm still learning on the human level all these stuff. But anyway, outside of that, if you feel that we could be of great benefit to you as well, please link with us on social media, get in touch with us, because we're international.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, thing is, when people say, oh, they're an international this and that and the other, well, that's just a given these days because of the internet. You know, it's nothing special now being an international person that's internationally recognized. I've had clients from Spain to Germany, obviously to England, because is where I'm originally from, to Hawaii, to wherever there's internet, I've had clients and students. And Aida's the same. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you want to reach out and you'd like to become a student or just experience a one-on-one session, you want to evolve and you're feeling a bit stuck, please reach out. We can definitely help you. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, thank you very much for watching the inaugural live stream of RA Ascension.
Yes.
And this is what it'll be moving forward. Maybe we'll get some ticker tape stuff and it might look a bit different next time, depending on the program I get to learn. Anyway, thanks very much.
Much love.
Have a great day.